Hey, what's up, guys? I want to talk to you guys a little bit about forecasting. I kind of define forecasting as determining whether a card will gain value, retain its value, or lose its value. So since I don't have a decent locals to attend here, I've already gotten my invites, so I don't really have any regionals that I'm going to, and I'm not going to any events. I decided just to share some of the secrets that our team uses to determine whether or not we pick up cards or not. So I just want to share a few of those things with you guys. So first of all, there's about 4 factors you should really consider when you're trying to forecast values for your cards. Rarity, hype, utility, and playability. Alright, so we'll start with rarity. Now, generally you look at rarity, you want to look at whether the card is secret rare, ultra rare, common, etc., etc. You want to look at, is this a TCG exclusive? Is this an OCG import? And did it get a rarity upgrade from the OCG to the TCG? Many times when a card has received a rarity upgrade, a la Pot of Duality, that makes that card that much more sought after. You also know there's going to be a limited amount of those cards. So it's best to pick those cards up as early as possible. A lot of times when those cards receive rarity upgrades, they're going to be good. Solemn Warning was a common, Dark Armed Dragon was a rare, Pot of Duality was a super. All those cards got rarity upgrades, and what happened to the price? They jumped. They were at a really high price at their initial release, and then as time went on, the price skyrocketed. I know a lot of people who either packed them at the sneak peek or got them early in the format, and like, this card is trash. I'll trade it for peanuts. And the next thing you know, the card is super expensive. And then months later, they're like, oh, these overpriced cards. Well, it was your fault. You had the card, but you didn't value it. And now the price of the card is too high. Okay, next we talk about hype. Now, hype usually extends from the OCG meta and what's dominating over there. You can usually find out what's going on in OCG meta. You can check out, various OCG channels on YouTube. I like to check out shriek.today.net. It's a really cool website. He posts events and tournaments from, the OCG meta. And a lot of times you'll see it's either agents, injectors, or blacklings. And sometimes those aren't really relevant to us because we either don't have all their cards or they play differently over there. But a lot of times you'll notice that a lot of the same decks are playing a lot of the same cards, and you have to pick up on that. You say, why are they running that card? That card is trash. Well, there must be a reason, and you got to remember they get cards and they get sets usually 3 months ahead of time than we do. So they've had plenty of time to test the meta and test those decks, and they've often found the optimal builds for their decks and the optimal counters, and so those things warrant paying attention to. Next, we'll talk about utility. And when I talk about utility, I'm usually talking about how many different decks can use a certain card. I'm talking about Effect Veiler, I'm talking about Maxi, Fiendish Chain, Solemn Warning, those kind of cards. Those cards all have high utility. Just about any deck can run those cards. I mean, even Tour Guide, look at all the different decks that Tour Guide is splashed in. And a lot of people don't like that. They don't like cards that you just dump this card in there and just put it in there. It doesn't need that. Well, it may not need it, but if that deck can run it and it adds to the consistency, that means that card has a very high utility, which means that card has a lot of value, which means that price of that card is going to get really high really soon. Sometimes people don't see the value in those cards. You guys don't remember, Maxi at one time was about $8. At its initial release, it was $40, but Roll Oppression was still legal, so people were like, I picked up a playset. I was like, fuck it, this card is good. I mean, if things get really bad and people start special summoning all over the place or whatever, this card could be good. And sometimes you have to think about that. You have to think long term. Bite the bullet. Sometimes cards are printed, have a really good effect, no real drawbacks. I'm not talking about Obelisk or Tormentor, these cards with really good effects, but you're like, how in the hell am I going to use this? I'm talking about cards that are just easy as send it to the graveyard. Effect Veiler, Maxi, easy to use. high utility. You pick those cards up because the effect is amazing, low cost, you know, in terms of using it. And, you know, sooner or later, the meta will shift and that card will be amazing and the price will skyrocket. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is playability. Playability is how good is this card right now, or how good will this card become in the upcoming meta. Before Inzektor's was playable or legal for the TCG, you know, Effect Veiler was really good. But you have to look at the fact that the Inzektors can do their thing once per turn. So you may be able to Effect Veiler that Dragonfly or that Centipede that first time, but if you don't clear it on your turn, then they can just do their herp derp derp on the following turn. Fiendish Chain solves that. Now going back to Max C, when Max C came out, you know, it was pretty cheap, $8, like I said, and it wasn't that really it was playable, but people didn't really want to play it. They felt that Effect Veiler was more effective. Also, Royal Oppression was still legal. The way I looked at it was people still special summon. I mean, just because Royal Oppression was still legal, did that stop people from special summoning? No. Because I remember people playing Six Samurais and Plant Synchro at the time before we got Tengu, and they were still doing their herp derp derp, whatever, and Royal Oppression, you know, was still legal. So I held on to my Max C's because I knew that the card was still good and people might find it good. Little did I know that Royal Oppression would get banned and the card would jump from $8 to fucking, I think, $60 now. That's insane. So, you know, that's one of the things I look at. Something else you have to consider when it comes to playability is ignoring the forums, ignoring some of the high caliber players when they talk about certain cards and their playability. Now, this is not always wise because, you know the high end players are there for a reason. You know, they pretty much know their shit. But on the other hand, they make mistakes. You know, we're all human. We make mistakes. And I'm going to point to Fiendish Chain for that example. Now, people thought that Fiendish Chain was inferior to Effect Veiler because of MST. Now, well, we have 2 MST. You know, Fiendish Chain is bad. You know, you can just get blown up. Well, Fiendish Chain is still around. It's $60 and MST is at 3. The thing is, you have to draw that MST. And a lot of times you're stuck. Do I MST the Fiendish Chain or do I MST the unknown cards? You know, it's as simple as that. I mean, we have 3 MST and Heavy Storm and various other monsters that blow up shit, yet Fiendish Chain is still expensive. Just to recap for all that, you know, when you consider those 4 factors, the rarity, hype, utility, and playability, the next time you go to a sneak peek or you're opening a box or packs or whatever, you know, take time to actually read those cards, even the shitty commons, because a lot of times those shitty commons, those shitty looking rares, whatever, turn out to be valuable. You know, Striker's $8 was $8 at one time. I can't remember who really made Leeching the Light really popular, but that jumped to a $1 common, and you know, people had those in their penny box. You know, take time to read those cards, read their effects, and then think, is this card good now, or in the upcoming meta, could that card really put in work? And just put it to the side, or make a note, make a mental note, put it in your phone or whatever, and then as things develop and change, you can refer back to that and say, you know what, agents are getting stupid. My opponent dropped a Christia and Hyperion. They didn't kill me. I have the opportunity to bust their shit open with Leeching the Light. You know, it's as simple as that. It's just reading the cards, figuring out what they could do in a situation, but also considering the ease of which you can play that card, you know, without using any kind of huge wombo combo with 4 or 5 cards and just to bust it out, but just that one card to do that one thing to get you out of those, you know, common situations. This is DUBKDAD. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope that this information will be useful to you guys, and I'm out.